Welcome to the channel. I'm talking about magazine storage, specifically storage for AR15 magazines. Now this one is the classic 30 round 223-556 magazine. Of course it holds 30 of the 223-556 rounds. But this one, which is identical in size and shape, is a 10 round Beowulf magazine. So there are an awful lot of different calibers available for the AR15 platform. That means an awful lot of magazines in what is already an incredibly popular rifle. Which also means an awful lot of magazine pouches. Depending on whether or not the range is very far away from you, or whether your course of fire requires you to do moving from, say, cover to cover, practical style, you're going to have to wear your magazines on you, either in the form of a belt pouch or a pouch on a MOLLE vest. And this is where something like this comes in. And this is specifically an open top, elastic or bungee retaining system magazine pouch. It's also MOLLE, meaning it's modular, and you can tell because it's got these straps on the back which can be threaded into the vest and then back onto itself through these straps on the back of the pouch. And as an added bonus, it's also got additional straps on the front, so you can thread an additional pouch onto the front of this. Now, this design has become an absolute classic because it's really lightweight and it's fairly silent. The ones which have got a lid that opens with Velcro, as we all know, the Velcro creak is pretty noisy, and especially if it runs the length of the magazine, that's an awful lot of Velcro to have to open up. So I've got with me 3 different types of these. I will just show you what they are. I've got this one, the classic one, which is very, very much specific for an AR15 magazine. I've got this one, which is a little bit more generic, able to take larger 7.62 magazines, as well as 5.56 magazines. And finally, I suppose, bowing to the inevitable, when the military also decided that they would have to have their own ones to issue as part of the pouch pack for the armor vests that people were getting issued. So I'd like to go through what I think are the important features of a successful magazine pouch of this type. The first one has got to be that it's very lightweight. Each magazine pouch is designed to take only one magazine. So you can imagine if you would have to carry 4 or 5 magazines in pouches like these, if each pouch would be quite heavy in addition to the weight of the magazine, then that all adds up, and that's more that you have to lug around. So lightweight is key. The second thing is that it has a very, very low profile. This one, for instance, if you look at the seam, only has about 2 or 3 millimeters between the edge and the seam. And what that allows you to do is stack up really close to each other several magazine pouches side by side. Another thing I look for in pouches like these are that generally they're made to a very tight tolerance. I mean, the whole purpose of a pouch like this is that it takes up as little space as possible. So for instance, if I take my 30 round magazine and pop it into here, you can see that there's very, very little wobble. There's very little excess space, and that helps to keep the magazine held in very securely. So for instance, if I were there, and I haven't actually even retained the magazine with a strap, that's off to the side, or even upside down, it's not likely to fall out. I realise my magazine is empty. Once it has a bit of weight in it, that's probably going to change, but nevertheless, the idea still holds. This magazine is held in pretty securely, even without the aid of the elastic. With the elastic, it's not going to go anywhere. You don't have to worry. You get somewhere and all of a sudden your magazine is 50 yards behind you and of absolutely no use whatsoever. This is one of the samples that we got as far as design went. I think these might be cheaper because there are certain shortcuts that have been taken to help the manufacturer. For instance, Look at the size of the trim here, and also here. Compared to my earlier one, we're talking a wastage of several more millimeters either side. That means when you need to stack them close together, because remember each pouch only carries one magazine, you're going to have potentially magazine pouches knocking against each other. It's not really desirable. Another thing that I dislike with something like this, if it's not made to a tight tolerance, your contents can move about fairly freely inside. That's not very secure. I mean, side to side is okay, but upside down, this will just fall out, and that's when it's empty. So once you have some weight behind it, I think even there you'd be losing your magazine without the retention. But I do understand why these are probably cheaper than these ones. Having this amount of extra space for trim does mean that someone who's not very attentive to their work can still make a pouch like this, and it's still passable because within the design there's a fairly high tolerance for slightly sloppy manufacturing, I would say. So this one doesn't really get my vote of confidence. I suppose they're really cheap, but you get what you pay for. Moving on, finally we've got the military design, and it is a testament to how successful the design was in the first place that there is a military pouch or military version of it out there. The retention is the same, but what they've decided to change is that they've actually mounted the body of the pouch perhaps about a quarter of the way from the top of the pouch, meaning that when this hangs on your vest or your belt, then the entire magazine will just hang a little bit lower. The top of the pouch has got to mount onto something, and so you've got all this extra space before you get to the magazine itself. Now there are advantages to that as well. It does mean, for instance, if you're very bulky and you have a large armor vest in front of you, there will be perhaps a tendency for the magazines to droop forward a little bit, and that little bit of space, instead of having the magazine pushed up right against the body, it might actually make it easier to reach. A disadvantage of mounting the body this much lower means that the possibility of stacking pouches below is just that much less. I think the winning design element on a pouch like this really is that it is truly silent. There isn't even any Velcro on the pouch surface at all to snag on anything and make that annoying creaking noise. You might not even be carrying a magazine. You might be bird watching or photographing or perhaps working somewhere where you have to be absolutely dead silent. And you do still have to carry extra gear. Something like this, you can operate by feel, and there is no chance that it is going to make that awful extra noise that you need to avoid. Disadvantages of something like this are, for instance, if the contents you want to put in are not very close to the dimensions of an AR15 magazine, you're going to find a lot of difficulty with a pouch like this. Another one, of course, is that if you happen to need to get down to the ground and you end up perhaps belly down, prone, and some mud or dirt get in contact with the top of the pouch or the top of the contents, you're basically going to be wearing little shovels on your body as you move around, scooping up everything, and you have an almighty mess to clear up at the end of it. For what it was designed for, a quick, low-profile, silent pouch to be used when you are upright, perhaps in a vehicle or walking around, this one is definitely hard to beat. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.